All right, it's time for another episode of the Joshcast. Joshcast, ponderous and thoughtful. Joshcast, growing and learning. That's really not the purpose of this podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to stagnate and forget things, essentially. There's another person with a giant dog. A giant dog that's probably designed to live in the Arctic, or at least a temperate climate, who is about to encounter July and August in North Hollywood. I can't stand that. I just can't. I want to endow dogs with speech. I want to have that ability so that when somebody buys an Alaskan Husky, the Husky's going to say, okay, so we're going to Alaska, right? That's the plan. Like, step one, you buy me, which, by the way, just, ownership of an animal is, feels a bit like, how would you feel as a human? That's a whole chapter of your history I think you're, trying to deal with. But, you're going to buy me and then we're going to Alaska, correct? Why are you taking out that laptop? It looks like you're writing a screenplay. Let me see if I can get this straight. You're a screenwriter in Hollywood, and you said to yourself, you know what I need? An Arctic wolf. I'm leaving. I am going to Alaska. And thus did the Alaskan Husky leave on a quest to go to Alaska. The Adventures of the Alaskan Husky Who is Annoyed. The Adventures of the Alaskan Husky Who is Annoyed. The Adventures of the Alaskan Husky Who is Annoyed. Who are you? I'm Scooby-Doo. Why are you talking like that? This is how I always talk. You don't have to do that. Are you trying to be funny? Is that what's going on? I'm Scooby-Doo. You don't have to talk like the fact that you can talk. You don't need to have a funny voice. Are you saying my voice is funny? No. Oh no, I'm not. No. That's okay. Let's not turn this into a political incident. Let's not do that. I misunderstood. I guess I thought you were putting on the voice as an affectation. You thought? Wow. I don't really shouldn't talk. Really should not talk. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to walk away. Oh boy. Oh God. Oh boy. I'm going to hear about this. I'm going to get an email about this. So you're the Alaskan Husky who made some very inappropriate comments to Scooby. I apologized to him. Yeah, but was it a reactive apology in the moment, or was it proactive? There's a difference. Look, I just all I want to do is get to Alaska. Can you help me get to Alaska? Well, I don't know. I mean, yes, I'm a bush pilot, but I only take people places who I believe are kind and decent. Same with animals. They have to be kind and decent. A great white shark wanted me to take him to the Bahamas, and I had some questions about his decisions, so I said no. Time for the adventures of the conscientious bush pilot. I need you to take me to Vegas. And what do you do for business? It's none of your concern. It's none of your concern. I got some business that I need handled in Vegas. Well, I just get the feeling that your business is not above board, and I just can't. I can't fly you to Vegas. Okay. I see how it is. The adventures of the gangster. The adventures of the gangster. So I shot him in the face. That's what I did. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking me to Alaska. I know it's way outside your path to Vegas, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Hey, listen. Anything for an Alaskan Husky, all right? I mean, the place where you live is in your name. Duh. Well, that was fun. Hopefully that was fun. I watched the movie The Space Between Us, which is a romantic science fiction film starring, I think it's Asa Butterfield, or is it Asa? I think it's Asa Butterfield is his name. Starring him and Britt Robertson. I'm much more confident in the pronunciation of the name Britt Robertson than I am in Asa Butterfield. Not that either of them are listening. But at any rate, kid inadvertently born on Mars. Astronaut left, realized she was pregnant after she left, too late to come back, gave birth to the boy on Mars. Female astronaut. Mother dies in childbirth. I don't think I needed to say female and mother. Or maybe I did. I don't know. It's 2019. Gender dynamics and identity has become much more complex and, dare I say, honest. So I want to respect those who maybe identify as female astronaut fathers. I don't know. Or male astronaut mothers. Whatever. Now I feel like I need to write an apology. Now I need to do an apology segment. It's time for a Joshua Snyder apology segment. I would like to apologize to anyone who I might have offended by trying to be pithy about gender identity in 2019. This has been a Joshua Snyder apology. All right. So anyway, the point is, kid's born on Mars. And he's only suited for the Martian atmosphere. It's assumed that he cannot survive on Earth. And he grows up at this Martian colony of, a few astronauts or so. And ends up getting into a texting relationship with a girl on Earth. And it's eventually decided by the powers that be that he should come back. And they've come up with a miracle surgery that should enable him to survive, so they think. And so on and so forth. And he comes back to Earth, escapes the clutches of NASA. Which I don't know. NASA doesn't seem like the type that has clutches. A huge respect. Mad props for NASA, but they're not really at the clutches part of the government. Not so much. They don't clutch. They politely ask, "Hey, don't leave the room." "Oh, we left the room." "Okay. Get a memo, write a memo, call the supervisor." I told him I asked him politely not to leave the room. "Well, we've done everything we can. We'll have to turn this over to the people who, have clutches." And now it's time for another apology segment. I would like to apologize to the good people of NASA for making fun of your security protocols, which are probably much, much more stringent than how I am portraying them for the purposes of this podcast. Thank you. And I saw the movie, and I enjoyed the movie, and then what I noticed is that the part of the plot was that he can't survive on Earth because his heart gets enlarged. And so I've spent all morning worrying if my heart is getting enlarged. And that is what happens whenever anyone has a health issue or a health problem. And I say health problem instead of health issue because I just read an article about how John Williams suffered a minor health issue, and now I'm afraid of suffering a minor health issue. And the word issue triggered that memory, which in turn triggered that fear. So I, in that moment, went from saying health issue to health problem in an attempt for my obsessive compulsive to rectify the fear that I would have an issue, which is ironic because problem, frankly, sounds worse than issue. So now I'm thinking that by saying problem, whatever I'm going to have is going to be worse than the health issue that John Williams may have had. That's a roller coaster for you. Isn't that a roller coaster? Isn't it? Isn't it a roller coaster? I quite enjoyed the film, though. There were a few major plot things. It's creepy that I enjoyed the film because it's really about a high school romance. And I'm 37 years old, and I feel like I shouldn't be watching movies about high school romance. But I never had a high school romance, so I think that's part of why I like watching these things. I can pretend that I did have a high school romance. Oh man, that's a new level of sad right there. Congratulations, Mr. Snyder has achieved a new level of sad. Today's level of sad is brought to you by depression. I'm never leaving you, depression. Yeah, I think that's an interesting revelation right there. That I never really had that, so I'm attracted to that. Not that I'm attracted to people in high school. I'd like to issue another apology to anyone in high school who might be listening to this. I'm not at all, nor ever was, interested in people in high school, and I don't want you to think that I was. I mean, well, I mean, you know, I see someone, I'm attracted to them, and then I find out they're in high school. I wouldn't act on it. There we go. It's important that I'm honest. I don't want you to think that I would never do that. I have never done that. I would like to issue an apology to all pedophiles that I'm making fun of you in this apology. I would like to issue an apology to all people who have been abused by a pedophile, that I'm apologizing to pedophiles. I would like to issue an apology to the entire human race and to all Alaskan Huskies for any of the harm I might have caused in this podcast. The car, not quite in front of me, but in front of me and to the left slightly, has it's not quite turquoise, it's more of a teal blue. And that teal blue brings me joy because it reminds me again of the 80s for some reason. Or maybe not so much the 80s, but then my parents and grandparents used to take me to Taos, New Mexico. And there was a lot of turquoise down there. And there was something, it's odd, but there was something about Taos, New Mexico that was mystical, dare I say it. And I don't know, we went to the ruins. I think it was the Anasazi ruins, I want to say. I can't remember. The ruins. And fortunately, I was too young to really breathe in the gravity of what those ruins meant, which was really the concept of death. Otherwise, it just really would have increased my depression, if such a thing was possible. Once again, passing the sign that says, "The World of Da Vinci, now open at the Reagan Library." And for the second day in the row, I find it ironic that they're talking about Da Vinci in the Reagan Library. Because, now that's an interesting question. Why do I associate Reagan with the opposite of, I was about to say epitome, which I think is not the right word. I think epitome means the essence of. Why do I associate Reagan with the opposite of Da Vinci? What do I really know about Reagan? Is that a fair assessment of Reagan as a person? Because I know there were policies in his administration that I personally do not agree with. I would like to apologize to all Republicans listening to this for my inability to accurately assess the Reagan administration. And I would like to apologize for all Democrats for apologizing to the Republicans. And I would like to apologize for all independents for taking the time to apologize to either of the majority parties who were probably destroying this country. And I would like to apologize to the majority parties for saying that they are destroying this country, even though I think they are destroying this country. And I would like to apologize to the... Sorry, excuse me. I actually work for Josh. I'm his assistant, Jared. And Josh had to take a moment. He fell into an apology loop. An apology loop. I love that. I love that. It's me again. I'm Josh. Jared's fine. But I love the concept of the apology loop. I feel I've always wanted to combine science fiction with Yiddish people. And I feel like that's what happened to Tevye? According to my instruments, he's fallen into an apology loop. Aye, Gewalt. Looks like a Guilt Boson got its way into the situation. Not the Guilt Boson. We found guilt at the atomic level. We call it the Guilt Boson. Unfortunately, the Guilt Boson has gotten into the particle accelerator, and now everyone feels guilty. MMA fights are simply not happening. It's just two people apologizing to each other for past fights. It's totally destroyed the political situation. Everyone is too afraid to do anything for fear of having to apologize. And as a result, the government is totally paralyzed. And as a result of that, business is booming. The Guilt Boson. Which I feel like that should be the name of a novel. I don't know. The Guilt Boson. That has to be. I don't know what the novel's about other than what I just described. But what a great name for a novel. It's mine. You can't take it. Driving behind a Porsche, or as I like to pronounce it, Porchy. I'd like to apologize to all Porsche drivers and to the Porsche makers for making fun of the name Porsche. Or is it Porsche? I don't know. I never understand these things. I don't know what's happening. At one point in the space between us, there was one moment that I thought was a bit much. Actually, the more I describe it, they're running from the NASA people, and the girl lives on a farm, and her foster father flies up in the plane and is a crop duster, and so they escape the NASA people by getting into a crop dusting plane, which takes off and flies away, and then lands awkwardly on a road and crashes into a building and explodes. It just seemed a little... Which, I don't know, maybe what the space between us really needed was the main character needed to be Benny Hill. I'm on Mars! Benny Hill on Mars. See it on the BBC One. And then see it again on the BBC Two. How bad would it be for the people of Britain if the BBC announcer had an American accent all of a sudden one day? How horrible would that be? You're watching the BBC. Yeah. Yes, Nigel Hawthorne, the third. Yes, I'm calling because I was watching the BBC One, yes. And it appears that the announcer is, American. And Sir, I don't know if you are aware of this, but this is the British Broadcasting Company. We simply cannot allow an American to be the voice of the British Broadcasting Company. Conversely, if a British person were the voice of ABC, we'd be totally fine with that. You're watching the American Broadcasting Company. You're like, yeah, go. Oh, wow. They've really put a lot of money into it. Things have gotten better. As good as ABC was, I mean, it's amazing now. That guy's British. But you can't go the other way around. You can't do that. You're listening to the BBC. The British Broadcasting thing. That's what we sound like to British people. We're the American people that do the things. And we have the big bombing things that we do. And we make big movies where planes blow up, even though it's really kind of just a romance. Still managed to get the blow up plane in there. Still managed to do that. Jimmy. Still managed to do that. But that is the way of things. You don't. The British voice solves a lot of problems. That's an established fact. It really does. I'm afraid it's going to cost $900 to repair your car. Are you sure? Let me see that. $900 really? I'm afraid, sir, it's going to cost you $900. $900. Dollars. To fix your car. My God. Well, he's British. They can't lie. That's what we know about British people. They're incapable of lying. That's our knowledge of them. All right, well, I think that's the end of this podcast.